Picture this. It's the 16th century. Europe is just a whirlwind of new ideas. And in this era, a single book, a well-written pamphlet, could literally change the destiny of a nation just as much as an army could. With just ink and paper, you could build a country's entire story, or you could tear down its faith. Today, we're going to look at two men who did exactly that.
So it really makes you wonder, right? How does a nation actually figure out who it is? We're diving into the lives of two men who lived at the very same time but answered that question in completely different ways. One of them looked deep into the past to map out a country's identity, while the other, well, he called for a radical break to forge a brand new one.
On one side, you've got William Camden, an English scholar whose life's mission was to carefully document every piece of his nation's history. And on the other, John Knox, a fiery Scottish preacher whose goal was nothing less than a complete spiritual revolution for his country. Two very different men, two very different missions, but both knew the incredible power of the written word.
All right, so let's kick things off with the chronicler, William Camden. This was a man who truly believed that to understand England's future, you had to first understand every single inch of its past.
So who was this guy, William Camden? Well, he was a historian and an antiquarian living right in the thick of the Elizabethan era. And his life's work wasn't just about writing down a list of kings and battles. It was about creating this huge, comprehensive portrait of England itself. Now, you might be hearing that word antiquarian and thinking, what on earth is that? Well, think of it like being a historical detective. An antiquarian doesn't just read old books. They study objects, places, local traditions, all of it, to piece together a much richer, more tangible story of what happened. This approach was pretty revolutionary at the time, and Camden was a real pioneer. And all that detective work led to his absolute masterpiece, a book called Britannia. When it came out in 1586, it wasn't just another dusty old chronicle. It's actually considered one of the very first modern histories of England, and that's all because of the incredible method he used to put it together. So, what made his approach so special? It was this amazing three-step process. First up, the geographic survey. He would describe counties, towns, and important sites in incredible detail. Then, he'd do his primary source analysis, digging into original documents and records. And finally, the magic step. He would create a historical account that wove England's history directly into its physical landscape. Combining these things, it was a total game changer. And this really gets to the heart of it. Britannia was basically a map of the land and its stories, all in one. His attention to detail was so legendary that his book became the go-to reference for generations of historians who came after him. The impact of this book was enormous. Seriously, Britannia gave the English people a unified, shared story that was literally rooted in the ground beneath their feet. And it wasn't just text. The use of maps and illustrations was a huge deal back then. It helped create this powerful new sense of national heritage. And why does that matter? Because by defining a single coherent English story, Camden's work helped build an identity that would later fuel everything from national pride to the very idea of a British Empire.
Okay, so now let's do a complete 180, because while Camden was carefully piecing together the past, our next figure, John Knox, was trying to just shatter it. He wasn't mapping a nation's history, he was trying to reforge its soul.
John Knox was a Scottish Protestant reformer, a major player in the Reformation, that huge religious movement that challenged the Catholic Church all across Europe. But Knox wasn't a quiet scholar in a library. He was a revolutionary preacher who believed Scotland needed a radical, brand new spiritual path.
And if you want to understand his style, you don't have to look any further than the title of his most famous pamphlet, published in 1558. I mean, just look at that. It's not a subtle academic paper, it's a blast of a trumpet meant to wake people up and cause a stir. He wasn't exactly pulling any punches.
What's truly wild here is what he was actually arguing. He was directly attacking the right of queens to rule, specifically targeting figures like Mary I of England. His argument, based on his reading of the Bible, was that female rulers were unnatural and against God's will. I mean, this was a direct assault on the entire political and religious order of the time.
And his ideas hit like a lightning bolt. Just look at this timeline. In 1558, he publishes his first blast. Just 2 years later, in 1560, he's a co-author of the Scots Confession, which becomes the foundational document for a whole new church. And by the time he dies in 1572, the entire religious landscape of Scotland had been changed forever.
So that document, the Scots Confession, you can think of it as the mission statement for the brand new Church of Scotland. It totally rejected the Pope's authority and laid out the core beliefs that would come to define Scottish Presbyterianism. And this is so important because it didn't just change how people worshipped, it carved out a cultural and political identity for Scotland that was totally distinct from its Anglican neighbor, England, shaping their complicated relationship for centuries to come.
So here we are, two men separated by a border, but both using the incredible power of their writing. You've got Camden, the careful builder of a national story, and Knox, the fiery architect of a new national faith.
When you put their legacies side by side, it's pretty stunning. They couldn't be more different, yet both are so foundational. Camden gave England the groundwork for modern history and a deep, shared heritage that brought the nation together. Knox, on the other hand, became the father of Scottish Presbyterianism, giving Scotland a new theological and cultural identity that deliberately set it apart.
And all of this leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. When it comes to shaping a nation, or even just ourselves, what's more powerful? Is it the careful, patient work of uncovering and understanding the past, like Camden did? Or is it the passionate, demanding vision for a completely different future, like the one Knox fought for? The answer, maybe, is that every nation needs a bit of both.